I was fixing my mother's laptop when I stumbled upon a hidden folder labeled Family Vacations. Inside were thousands of photos of my mother and sisters celebrating holidays, birthdays, and trips I was told never happened. I paid for their lives, yet I was erased from them. So I cut the funding, and the fallout was catastrophic. Before we continue today's story, we have an urgent announcement to make. Due to technical issues, we are pivoting towards another channel. Please subscribe to our new channel, Kin and Karma. You can find the link in the video description, the pinned comment, and the collaboration tag on this video. Make sure to switch over now so you don't miss out. Thank you for your support. Now back to the story. The silence in my mother's living room usually felt peaceful, a respite from the chaotic, high-stakes world of forensic accounting, where I spent 60 hours a week hunting down hidden assets and exposing corporate fraud. Today, however, the silence felt heavy, pressing against my temples like a physical weight. I was sitting at the mahogany dining table, a table I had paid for 3 years ago when my mother, Joyce, cried about the old one having a wobble, staring at the glowing screen of her MacBook. She had called me over in a panic, claiming the screen was doing that flickering thing again, and that she couldn't access her banking app. As the dutiful oldest daughter, the one who lived only 20 minutes away and had made a career out of being reliable, I came over immediately. I had fixed the screen issue in under 5 minutes. It was just a loose display setting she had likely toggled by accident. But while I was running a quick diagnostic to make sure her hard drive wasn't failing, she had complained about it being slow. A notification popped up in the corner of the screen. Upload complete, Cabo Trip 2023 to Dropbox. My fingers froze on the trackpad. Cabo. My mother hadn't been to Cabo ever to my knowledge. Just last month, during the dates implied by a 2023 folder, she had told me she was bedridden with a severe migraine that lasted a week. I remembered that week vividly because I had driven over 3 times to drop off groceries, leaving them on the porch as per her request so I wouldn't disturb her rest. I had paid for her prescriptions. I had even sent extra money for a cleaning service so she wouldn't have to worry about the house. A cold prickle of unease started at the base of my neck. It was the same sensation I got at work when a ledger didn't balance, the instinct that screamed something is wrong here. Against my better judgment, I clicked on the Finder icon. I navigated to the Dropbox folder. There it was, a folder titled The Real Family Albums. The name alone felt like a slap across the face. The Real Family. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic, irregular rhythm that made my breath catch in my throat. I double-clicked. The screen filled with subfolders, arranged neatly by year. 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023. I opened 2023. Inside were hundreds of high-resolution JPEGs. I clicked on the first one, and the image expanded to fill the screen, searing itself into my retinas. It was a group selfie. The background was unmistakable, the pristine white sands of a beach in Cabo San Lucas. The sun was shining, the water was a brilliant turquoise, and there, front and center, were the people I loved most in the world. My mother, Joyce, looked radiant. She wasn't bedridden. She wasn't wearing the old, fraying robe she always wore when I visited. She was wearing a turquoise caftan, expensive, silk, holding a margarita in one hand and throwing a peace sign with the other. Next to her were my sisters. Eva, 28, looked like she had stepped out of a fashion magazine, wearing oversized sunglasses and a designer bikini. Grace, 25, was laughing, her head thrown back in pure joy, her arm draped affectionately around Mom's shoulders. They looked happy, they looked healthy, they looked like a family. I checked the timestamp on the photo's metadata. October 14th, 2023. I felt the blood drain from my face. October 14th. That was the day I had sat in my car outside this very house, crying on the phone to my best friend because Mom wouldn't let me come inside to see her. She had told me through the door, her voice weak and trembling, "Oh, Claire, honey, I just can't handle visitors right now. The light hurts my eyes. Just leave the soup and go. I love you." I had left the soup. I had transferred $500 to her account that same evening because she mentioned she needed to see a specialist for her head. I clicked next. Another photo. This one was a dinner. A long table set with seafood platters, wine bottles, and candles. Eva was making a toast. Grace was clinking glasses with Mom. I clicked next. Christmas 2022. I stopped breathing. For Christmas last year, Mom had told me the heater was broken and she was going to stay at a friend's house in the countryside to keep warm, and that Eva and Grace were busy with their boyfriends. I had spent Christmas alone in my apartment, eating takeout Chinese food and watching old movies, feeling a deep, aching loneliness that I tried to suppress. I had sent them all expensive gifts: cashmere sweaters, gift cards, jewelry. The photo on the screen showed them in a cabin, a luxury cabin. There was a massive tree, beautifully decorated. They were wearing matching pajamas, the red plaid ones I had seen in a catalog and suggested we get, only for Eva to tell me they were tacky. They were wearing the tacky pajamas, all three of them. And I wasn't there. I scrolled faster, my hand trembling so violently I could barely control the mouse. Thanksgiving, Easter, my birthday. My birthday. On my 32nd birthday 3 months ago, Mom had forgotten to call until 9 p.m. When she did, she said, "Sorry, Claire, we're all just so swamped with work and exams. We'll do something soon." The photos from that day showed them at a spa resort. "Spa day for the girls," the caption on one of the screenshots read. I wasn't one of the girls. I felt a physical wave of nausea roll over me. I pushed the chair back, the legs scraping harshly against the hardwood floor. I looked around the room I paid to heat, the room in the house I paid the mortgage on, and it suddenly felt alien. It was a stage set, a facade constructed to keep the bank rolling. I was the bank. And the betrayal wasn't just that they went on trips without me. It wasn't just the lying. It was the meticulous nature of it. The coordination required to keep this hidden for years. The effort they put into excluding me was greater than the effort it would have taken to invite me. The betrayal was worse than the diagnosis itself. The diagnosis of loneliness I had given myself for years, thinking I was just unfortunate, thinking I was just the workaholic who drifted apart from her family. I hadn't drifted. I had been pushed, and then billed for the push. "Claire." My mother's voice drifted from the hallway. "Is the computer fixed, sweetie? I need to order my supplements." I stared at the photo of them laughing in Cabo. The laughter in the image felt like it was echoing in the room, mocking me. "Claire." I closed the laptop lid. The snap was loud, final. "Yes, Mom," I whispered to the empty room, my voice shaking with a rage so cold it burned. "It's fixed. Everything is crystal clear now." I didn't confront her, not then. If there was one thing my profession had taught me, it was that you never show your hand until you have the full picture. You don't scream at the embezzler when you find the first discrepancy. You wait until you have the bank records, the wire transfers, and the confession taped. I walked out of the dining room and met Joyce in the hallway. She was wearing her sick outfit, a faded gray cardigan wrapped tightly around her frame, walking with a slight stoop. It was a performance. I saw it now. I saw the slight tension in her shoulders that wasn't from pain, but from holding a pose. "All done," I said. My voice sounded hollow, distant, like it was coming from someone else. It was just a display setting. "Oh, thank goodness," she sighed, leaning against the wall dramatically. "I don't know what I'd do without you, Claire. You're the only one who understands these machines. Eva is always so busy with her her marketing projects, and Grace is drowning in coursework." "Right," I said, gripping my car keys so hard the metal bit into my palm. "Busy. Busy drinking margaritas in Cabo. Busy skiing in Aspen." "I have to go, Mom. Work emergency," I lied. "Oh," her face fell, a practiced mask of disappointment. "I was hoping you could run to the pharmacy for me. My back is flaring up again. I need the heating patches, the expensive ones. Usually, I would have said yes. I would have driven to 3 different pharmacies to find the specific brand she liked. I would have bought her snacks too, just to cheer her up. I can't, I said. Ask Eva. Joyce blinked, genuinely surprised. Eva? Oh, I can't bother her. She's in the middle of a big campaign launch. I'm sure she can find 5 minutes, I said, stepping onto the porch. I sent the money for the patches last week. You should have plenty left. I didn't wait for her response. I walked to my car, got in, and locked the doors. As I pulled out of the driveway, I looked in the rearview mirror. Joyce was watching from the window, her posture suddenly much straighter, her expression less frail widow and more annoyed customer. The drive home was a blur. I didn't cry. I think I was in shock. My mind was racing, cataloging every interaction from the last 5 years, recontextualizing every excuse. We're keeping Thanksgiving small this year, just me and the girls watching movies in pajamas. You'd be bored, Claire. You know how much you hate doing. Nothing. Grace's graduation is ticket-only, sweetie. They only gave us 3. Since I'm the mom and Eva helped her study, we thought, well, you understand, right? You're so busy with tax season anyway. I had understood. I had always understood. I was the reliable, boring ATM machine sister. I was the one who didn't fit the vibe. When I got to my apartment, a modest, clean place that cost a fraction of what I spent on my mother's lifestyle, I went straight to my home office. I sat down at my triple monitor setup and did what I did best. I opened a spreadsheet. I logged into my bank accounts. I pulled up 5 years of statements. I created columns: mortgage, mom's house; utilities, medical expenses; cash transfers, credit card payments; authorized user Joyce; tuition Grace; business loan Eva. I started typing. The numbers began to tally up, and the sum was nauseating. $3,000 a month for the mortgage, $500 for utilities, varying amounts for medical emergencies that suspiciously aligned with the dates of the trips I had seen in the folder. October 2023. I had transferred $2,500 for specialist visits and new medication. The flight to Cabo for 3 people would have cost roughly $1,800. The Airbnb, another $1,000. I was funding my own exclusion. I pulled up social media. I had blocked Eva and Grace on Instagram years ago, or rather, they had blocked me, claiming they wanted a private profile for their close friends and didn't want me worrying about them. I had accepted it. I created a burner account. It took 3 minutes. I searched for Eva's handle at Eva Elevates, public profile. It was all there. The secret folder wasn't just secret memories, it was public content. There was a reel from the Christmas cabin. Best Christmas ever with the squad, family first blessed. I watched the video. Joyce was dancing, actually dancing, shaking her hips, laughing, holding a glass of champagne. Mom looks great for someone with chronic spinal stenosis, I muttered to the empty room. Then I saw the comments. User Grace Space. So glad we ditched the negative energy this year. Best vibes only. User Eva Elevates. Totally. Life is too short for buzzkills. Buzzkill, that was me. I was the buzzkill. The buzzkill who paid for the champagne they were drinking. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Joyce. Joyce, Claire, I'm really disappointed you couldn't get the patches. I'm in a lot of pain. Also, the electricity bill came in. It's higher this month because of the heating. Can you transfer $400? I stared at the message. The audacity was breathtaking. It was almost impressive. I looked back at my spreadsheet. The total column at the bottom was blinking at me. Over the last 5 years, I had given them nearly $200,000. I had sacrificed my own down payment. I had driven a 10-year-old Honda. I hadn't taken a vacation in 4 years. I picked up my phone and typed a reply. Me, I'll look at it tomorrow. Rest up. I put the phone down. They thought I was just the wallet. They thought I was the naive, socially awkward sister who would keep signing checks out of a desperate need for approval. But they had forgotten one crucial thing. I opened my file cabinet and pulled out a thick manila envelope. I dusted it off. Inside was the deed of trust for the house Joyce lived in. When Dad died, he hadn't left the house to Mom. He knew she was terrible with money. He knew she would mortgage it to the hilt and lose it within a year. He had left it to me. Technically, Joyce was a tenant with zero lease agreement, living there purely by my grace. I ran my thumb over the legal seal on the document. "You want to cut me out?" I whispered, a cold smile finally touching my lips. "Fine, but you forgot that you're living on my stage." To understand why this betrayal cut so deep, you have to understand the history. You have to understand the roles we were assigned the day my father died 10 years ago. I was 22, Eva was 18, Grace was 15. Dad was the rock, Mom was the kite. She was beautiful, flighty, emotional, and utterly incapable of handling reality. When Dad had a massive heart attack, the world collapsed. At the funeral, Mom was a wreck. She couldn't speak. She couldn't stand. She clung to me, sobbing into my blazer, telling everyone, "Claire is the strong one. Claire will take care of us." And I did. I believed it was my duty. I dropped out of my master's program for a year to stabilize the family finances. I got a job. I managed the estate. I shielded them from the debt Dad had hidden. I became the parent. Eva and Grace were the traumatized children. They needed therapy, which I paid for. They needed breaks, which I funded. They needed to find themselves. Somewhere along the line, Claire is the strong one turned into Claire doesn't have feelings. Claire will take care of us turned into Cly. Ray owes us. I became the infrastructure of their lives, invisible, essential, and only noticed when I malfunctioned. But I always suspected that the drift wasn't just natural. I always suspected there was a voice whispering in Mom's ear, turning her neediness into entitlement. That night, scrolling through Eva's at Eva Elevate's Instagram, I found the voice. Eva wasn't just a marketing consultant, as Mom vaguely described. She was a lifestyle coach for aspiring influencers. Her bio read, "Manifesting abundance, cutting toxic ties, curating your best life." I started watching her story highlights. There was a Q and A from 6 months ago. Question: how do you deal with family members who bring you down? Eva sat in her car, a BMW I was pretty sure was leased in Mom's name, sipping an iced latte. She looked directly into the camera, her expression composed, polished, and utterly predatory. "Great question," Eva said, adjusting her designer sunglasses. "You have to edit your life like you edit your feed. If someone doesn't fit the aesthetic of where you're going, you have to crop them out, even if they're family. Especially if they're family. Energy vampires are real, guys. Some people just want to work and be miserable, and they hate seeing you shine. You have to protect your peace." Energy vampires. Work and be miserable. She was talking about me. I clicked on another video. This one was captioned, "Mom's new boyfriend. Love wins." My stomach dropped. Mom had a boyfriend. The video showed Joyce at a dinner table, the same dinner from the secret folder, sitting next to a man. He was silver-haired, tanned, wearing a linen suit. He looked slick. He looked like a con artist's idea of a wealthy man. "This is Robert," Eva's voice narrated from behind the camera. "He's an investor. He's going to help Mom diversify her portfolio. Finally, someone who knows what they're doing." Robert laughed, a smooth, practice sound. He leaned over and kissed Mom's cheek. "Joyce is a diamond," he said. "She just needs the right setting." "Exactly," Eva chirped. "No more penny pinching, we're manifesting wealth." I paused the video. Diversify her portfolio. Mom didn't have a portfolio, she had my money. And then it clicked, the uptick in medical bills. The sudden need for home repairs that never seemed to happen. Eva wasn't just excluding me because I was boring. She was excluding me because I was the auditor. I was the one person who would look at Robert the investor and ask to see his credentials. I was the one who would ask why Mom needed $5,000 for a holistic back treatment that Robert recommended. Eva was curating a reality where they were wealthy socialites, and to keep that illusion alive, they needed two things: my money and my absence. If I was there, I would ask questions. If I was there, I would see that the expensive patches were actually spa treatments. If I was there, the investor would run for the hills. Eva was the architect, Mom was the willing puppet, and Grace was the audience. I looked at Eva's face on the screen, perfect makeup, ring light reflecting in her eyes, spouting pseudo-spiritual nonsense while picking my pocket. She wasn't just my sister anymore. She was a parasite, and she had infected the host. I leaned back in my chair, the cold rage settling into a hard, diamond-like resolve. "You want to edit your life, Eva?" I said to the frozen image. "Okay, let's see what happens when the subscriber cancels the subscription." I picked up my phone. I didn't text Mom back. Instead, I opened my banking app. Scheduled transfer, Joyce weekly allowance, $500. Status, canceled. Scheduled transfer, mortgage payment direct to bank. Status, paused. Credit card, Joyce authorized user. Status, locked. I wasn't just going to stop paying. I was going to investigate Robert. I was going to investigate Eva's business. And I was going to use the one thing they didn't have, actual skills, to tear their little fantasy world apart. The next morning, my phone was a ticking time bomb I deliberately ignored. I woke up at 6:00 a.m., my usual time, but instead of rushing to check my emails or worry about Mom's back pain, I made myself a proper breakfast. Eggs, toast, coffee from the French press. I sat by the window in my quiet apartment and watched the sun come up. It was the first time in years I didn't feel the crushing weight of obligation. The silence wasn't lonely anymore, it was strategic. By 8:30 a.m., the bomb went off. My phone buzzed on the counter, Mom calling. I let it ring. 2 minutes later, Mom calling. I took a sip of coffee. 5 minutes later, Eva calling. That was interesting. Eva never called before noon. She was usually meditating or journaling her intentions. I picked up the phone, but not to answer. I set it to do not disturb for everyone except my boss. Then I opened my laptop. It was time to work. My first stop wasn't my usual NSIC accounting software. It was a background check service I used for vetting potential clients. I typed in the name, Robert, and cross-referenced it with the few details I had gleaned from Eva's Instagram stories. The location tags, the car he drove, a rented Maserati, judging by the license plate frame, and the general age range. It took me less than an hour to find him. Robert Vance, or rather Robert Valance, Rob V, and Roberto Vianney. The man in the linen suit wasn't an investor. He was a seminar leader for a multi-level marketing scheme that had collapsed in Florida 3 years ago. Before that, he had a string of failed businesses involving timeshares and exclusive travel clubs. There were forum posts from angry ex-girlfriends warning about him borrowing money for sure-thing investments and vanishing. He wasn't rich. He was hunting for someone who looked rich but was actually desperate for validation. Someone like my mother. Someone like Eva. I dug deeper into Eva's business. Eva Elevates LLC. It didn't exist. There was no business registration. Her coaching income was coming entirely from Venmo payments labeled things like manifestation session and vibe check. And looking at the public Venmo feed amateur mistake, most of the payments were coming from Joyce. My mother was paying my sister to be her life coach, and I was paying my mother. It was a closed loop of delusion, fueled by my paycheck. By noon, my phone had 17 missed calls and a string of increasingly frantic texts. Joyce, Claire, the card was declined at the pharmacy. I'm embarrassed. Please fix this ASAP. Eva, where are you? Mom is freaking out. She needs her meds. Stop ignoring us, it's childish. Grace, hey, did you change the Netflix password? I can't log in. I laughed out loud at Grace's text. That was the priority, not Mom's health, not my silence. Netflix. I decided to escalate. I called the bank that held the mortgage on Mom's house. As the deed holder and primary borrower, I had full authority. Hi, I said to the representative, keeping my voice professional and calm. I need to discuss the terms of the mortgage on the property at 42 Willow Creek Lane. I'd like to explore the option of selling the property or transferring the title. Certainly, ma'am. Let me pull up your file. Also, I added, I need a copy of the last 12 months of statements sent to my email, not the physical address. I suspect some mail has been intercepted. While I was on hold, I drafted an email to a real estate agent friend of mine, Sarah. Subject, potential listing. Body, hi Sarah, hypothetically, what could I get for a 4-bedroom colonial in Willow Creek if I needed a quick sale? Asking for a friend. The pieces were falling into place. I wasn't just reacting anymore, I was building a case. I was constructing a trap that would snap shut the moment they tried to lie to me again. At 2:00 p.m., I finally answered the phone. Hello. Claire, it was Eva. Her voice was shrill, tight with anger. Where the hell have you been? Mom is literally crying in the kitchen. Her card was declined for her medicine. I know, I said calmly. I canceled it. There was a stunned silence on the other end. You, what? I canceled the card, I repeated, and I stopped the transfer. Are you insane? Eva shrieked. She's sick, she needs that money. How could you be so selfish? Do you want her to die? She's not dying, Eva. She has spinal stenosis, not a terminal illness. And considering she was dancing on a table in Cabo last month, I think her back is doing just fine. The silence that followed was deafening. It was the sound of a carefully constructed reality shattering. I don't know what you're talking about, Eva stammered, her voice dropping an octave. I saw the folder, Eva, I said, my voice ice cold. The Dropbox folder on Mom's laptop. Cabo, the ski trip, the spa days. The real family albums. Claire, wait. I saw Robert too, I continued, cutting her off. And I know who he is. I know he's a con man, Eva. Does Mom know, or are you two in on it together? You're crazy, Eva whispered. You're just jealous because you have no life. Maybe, I said, but I have the deed to the house. What? The house, I said clearly. It's in my name, Dad left it to me, Mom just lives there. That's a lie, Eva screamed. Mom owns that house, she said Dad left it to her. She lied, I said. Just like she lied about being sick in October, just like she lied about Christmas, just like you lied about your business. I took a deep breath. I'm coming over at 6:00 p.m. Tell Mom to be ready, and tell Robert to be there too. I want to meet the investor who's spending my money. I hung up. I arrived at the house at 5:58 p.m. There was a strange car in the driveway, the Maserati. Robert was there. I walked up the path, clutching a leather portfolio. Inside were the bank statements, the deed, and the printout of Robert's background check. I didn't knock, I used my key. The living room was tense. Mom was sitting on the sofa, clutching a tissue, looking genuinely terrified. Eva was pacing by the fireplace, her arms crossed, looking furious. Grace was sitting on the floor, looking confused and slightly bored, scrolling on her phone. And there, standing by the window with a glass of scotch in his hand, was Robert. He looked exactly like he did in the video, but older, worn around the edges. When I walked in, he flashed a blinding, veneer-white smile. Ah, the famous Claire, he boomed, walking toward me with an outstretched hand. Joyce has told me so much about you, the financial wizard. I didn't shake his hand. I walked past him and stood in the center of the room. Sit down, I said. Robert blinked, his smile faltering. Excuse me. Sit down, Robert, I repeated, unless you want me to call the police and report a trespasser. Mom let out a small sob. Claire, please, don't be like this. Robert is a guest. Robert is a grifter, I said, dropping the portfolio onto the coffee table with a heavy thud. Excuse me, Robert sputtered, his face reddening. Young lady, I am a respected. You are Robert Vance, I interrupted, pulling out the background check. Formerly of Vance Ventures, which was shut down by the FTC for operating a pyramid scheme. You have 3 judgments against you in Florida for unpaid loans. You drive a rental car, and you are currently unemployed. The room went dead silent. Eva stared at Robert. Is that true? Robert's eyes darted around the room. These are lies, slander, I'm going to sue you. Go ahead, I said. I'd love to see the discovery process. I turned to Mom. She looked pale, her eyes wide with shock. Mom, I said, my voice softer but firm. He's not an investor, he's using you, and you're letting him use my money. It's not your money, Eva shouted, stepping forward. It's Mom's money, Dad left it to her. No, I said, pulling out the deed. Dad left the money to Mom in a trust that ran out 3 years ago. Since then, I have been the trust. I have been the bank. And this house, I held up the document. This house is mine. Dad left it to me because he knew you'd lose it. I looked at Mom. Did you tell them, Mom? Did you tell them the truth about the house? Joyce looked down at her hands, tears streaming down her face. I didn't want them to worry, she whispered. I wanted them to think we were okay. I wanted them to have a good life. So you let me pay for it, I said, and you cut me out of it. You wouldn't have understood, Eva yelled. You're always so intense, you would have judged us. We just wanted to have fun for once without you looking at the price tag. Fun, I laughed, a harsh, jagged sound. You went to Cabo while I was working weekends to pay for Mom's medication. You had a Christmas party while I sat alone in my apartment because you told me you were sick. I pointed at the laptop on the table. I saw the photos, Mom. I saw everything. Joyce flinched. Claire, honey, we were going to invite you. Next time, we didn't think you'd want to come. You're always working. I was working to pay for you, I screamed, finally losing my composure. The raw hurt exploded out of me. I was working so you could eat, so you could have heat, and you used that money to pretend I didn't exist. Robert cleared his throat, sensing an opening. Now, let's all calm down. Clearly, there's been a misunderstanding. Claire, if you just... Get out, I said, turning on him. I beg your pardons. Get out of my house, I said. Right now, or I call the police and show them the file I have on your little investment schemes. Robert looked at me, then at Joyce. He saw the defeat in her eyes. He saw the checkbook closing. Fine, he sneered, setting his glass down. You people are crazy anyway. Joyce, call me when you get rid of the lunatic. He walked out, the front door slammed. The silence that followed was suffocating. He left, Mom whispered. Of course he left, I said. The money's gone. I looked at my sisters and my mother. They looked small. They looked pathetic. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel the urge to fix it. You have 30 days, I said. What? Eva asked, her voice trembling. 30 days, I repeated. To vacate the property, I'm selling the house. The fallout was immediate and ugly. Eva didn't take it lying down. She went on the offensive. The next day, my phone blew up with notifications. Eva had posted a series of story times on her Instagram. She didn't name me, but she talked about a toxic family member who was financially abusive and trying to make an elderly woman homeless out of spite. Imagine kicking your own mother out on the street because you're jealous of her happiness, Eva said to the camera, wiping away a fake tear. We need help, guys. We're starting a GoFundMe for legal fees to fight this injustice. She was spinning the narrative. She was trying to use the court of public opinion to pressure me into backing down. But she had made a fatal error. She had underestimated my documentation. I didn't engage with her on social media. I engaged with a lawyer. I hired a fierce property attorney named Mr. Henderson. We drafted an eviction notice. But more importantly, I compiled a dossier of every single transaction over the last 5 years. I found the receipts for the Cabo trip. They were paid for using a credit card that was in Mom's name, but paid off directly from my checking account. I found the invoices for Eva's business expenses. Designer clothes, spa treatments, dinners, all charged to that same card. And then I found the smoking gun. While digging through the old emails on Mom's shared family cloud account, which I still had access to, I found an email thread between Joyce and Robert. "Robert, don't worry about the deed, babe. Once we get married, marital property laws in this state are tricky. If she tries to evict you, we can claim constructive trust since you've lived there for 10 years. We can tie her up in court for years. She'll settle just to make it stop." Joyce, okay. I just hope she doesn't find out about the loan. Loan? I froze. What loan? I ran a credit check on the property address. There it was, a lien. Joyce had taken out a home improvement loan for $50,000 against the house 3 months ago. She had forged my signature. My blood ran cold. This wasn't just exclusion, this was fraud, felony fraud. I sat in my office, staring at the forged signature on the digital document. It was a shaky approximation of my handwriting. They weren't just using me, they were actively stealing from me. They were willing to destroy my credit, my financial future, just to keep the party going. I called Mr. Henderson. "Change of plans," I said, my voice trembling with adrenaline. "We're not just evicting them, we're filing a police report." "Are you sure, Claire?" he asked. "This is your mother." "She forged my signature on a $50,000 loan," I said. "She's not my mother anymore, she's a liability." I didn't stop there. I went to the GoFundMe page Eva had set up. It had raised $2,000. I contacted GoFundMe support. I sent them the proof of ownership, the eviction notice, and the evidence of the fraud. 2 hours later, the page was taken down for terms of service violation. Then I did something I never thought I'd do. I posted on my own dormant Facebook page. I tagged Eva, I tagged Mom, I tagged Grace. I posted one image, the forged loan document with the signature highlighted. Caption: "For anyone donating to my sister's legal fund, you are funding a defense against felony forgery. My mother and sister forged my signature to take out a $50,000 loan on a house I own and pay for, while telling me they couldn't afford medication. The police have been notified. Save your money." The reaction was instantaneous. My phone started ringing. It was Grace. "Claire," she was sobbing. "Claire, please take it down. The police represent showed up at the door. They're asking for Mom." "Tell them the truth, Grace," I said coldly. "Tell them everything, or you're going down as an accomplice." "I didn't sign it," Grace screamed. "It was Eva. Eva made Mom do it. She said you'd never notice." "Eva made her?" I asked. "Or Mom wanted the money for Robert?" "Both," Grace wailed. "Please, Claire, they're taking Mom in for questioning. Eva is locking herself in the bathroom. I'm scared." "You should be," I said. "I'm coming over with the police report. Don't leave." The game was over. I wasn't the daughter anymore. I was the plaintiff. The flashing red and blue lights of the police cruisers cut through the twilight, painting the pristine suburban street in violent, strobing hues. It was a scene straight out of a crime drama, but the house in the background wasn't a set. It was the home I had paid for, the stage where my family had performed their long-running play of deception. I parked my Honda behind the second cruiser, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly that my knuckles turned white. My heart wasn't racing, it was thumping with a slow, heavy dread. This was the nuclear option. I had pushed the button, and now I had to walk through the fallout. I grabbed my file, the evidence locker, as I'd mentally dubbed it, and stepped out into the cool evening air. Mrs. Higgins from next door was standing on her porch in her bathrobe, watching with unabashed curiosity. When she saw me, she waved tentatively. I didn't wave back. I walked up the driveway. The front door was wide open. Inside, the chaos was palpable. Two uniformed officers were standing in the hallway. One was speaking to Eva, who was gesturing wildly, her face streaked with mascara, her voice pitched high in hystery. The other officer was in the living room with Joyce, who was sitting in her favorite armchair, clutching her chest, playing the role of the frail, victimized matriarch to perfection. "Officer, please," Eva was shrieking as I walked in. "This is a civil matter. My sister is just vindictive. She's trying to punish us because we had a disagreement about a vacation." The officer, a tall man with a tired expression, looked up as I entered. "Are you Claire?" "I am," I said, my voice steady. "I'm the homeowner and the victim of the fraud." "She's lying," Eva shouted, pointing a manicured finger at me. "She authorized the loan. She told Mom to sign it because she was too busy to come down to the bank. It was a verbal contract." I ignored her and walked straight to the officer. I didn't look at my mother. I couldn't. If I looked at her, small, weeping, looking at me with those betrayed, doe-like eyes, I might crumble. I had to be the forensic accountant now, not the daughter. "Officer," I said, opening my portfolio. "I have the deed to the property proving sole ownership. I have a sworn affidavit from the bank manager stating that the signature on the loan documents does not match my signature card on file. And I have the email correspondence between my mother and her associate, Robert Vance, explicitly discussing how to hide the loan from me." I handed him the stack of papers. The officer flipped through them, his eyebrows raising as he saw the emails. "Joyce, what if the notary asks for ID?" "Robert, don't worry, I know a guy. Just practice Claire's signature, make it loopy." That's fabricated," Eva screamed, lunging toward the papers. The officer stepped between us, his hand resting on his belt. "Ma'am, step back," he ordered, his voice dropping an octave. "Mom," Eva wailed, turning to Joyce. Tell them Claire said it was okay." I finally looked at my mother. She was trembling. She looked older than I had ever seen her. For a moment, the silence stretched, heavy and suffocating. This was her chance. She could tell the truth. She could save what little dignity was left. Joyce looked at the officer, then at me. Her eyes hardened. "She did," Joyce whispered, her voice shaking. "Claire told me to do it. She said she wanted to help me fix the roof. She's lying now because she hates my boyfriend. She's always been jealous." The knife twisted in my gut. Even now, even with the police in her living room, she chose the lie. She chose the money. "That is a lie," I said, my voice devoid of emotion. "And I can prove it." I turned to the corner of the room where Grace was sitting. She was curled into a ball on the ottoman, her knees pulled up to her chest, holding her phone. She hadn't said a word since I walked in. "Grace," I said softly. Grace looked up. Her face was pale, her eyes red-rimmed. "Grace," I repeated, "you were there when they signed the papers. You told me on the phone that Eva made Mom do it. You said you were scared." "Shut up, Grace," Eva hissed. "Don't say anything." "Miss," the officer said, turning to Grace, "if you know something about this, you need to speak up. This is a felony investigation. Obstructing it or lying to an officer is a serious crime." Grace looked at Eva, who was glaring at her with pure venom. Then she looked at Mom, who was weeping into a tissue, muttering about her poor heart. Then she looked at me. I didn't glare, I didn't plead. I just waited. Grace took a shaky breath. She stood up, her legs trembling. "I have a video," she whispered. "What?" Eva froze. "I have a video," Grace said louder, her voice gaining strength. "From that day, I was filming a TikTok in the kitchen. I didn't post it, but the camera was running." She tapped her screen and held the phone out to the officer. The room went silent. The only sound was the tinny audio coming from the smartphone speakers. Video voice, Eva. "Just sign it, Mom. Claire never checks her credit report. By the time she notices, Robert's investment will pay off and will pay it back. She's so stupid, she'll never know." Video voice, Joyce. "I don't know, Eva. It looks like a forgery." Video voice, Eva. "It's not forgery if we're family. It's borrowing, just do it, or we can't go to Italy next month." The officer stopped the video. He looked at Eva. He looked at Joyce. "That seems pretty definitive," he said dryly. "Grace," Eva shrieked, launching herself at her sister. "You little traitor, I'll kill you." "Hey," the officers moved instantly. One of them grabbed Eva by the arm as she tried to claw at Grace. She thrashed, screaming obscenities that would have made a sailor blush. "Let go of me, do you know who I am? I have a following, I will ruin you." "You're under arrest, ma'am," the officer said, pulling out his cuffs, "for fraud, conspiracy, and assault." Joyce let out a wail that sounded like a wounded animal. "No, not my baby. Take Claire, T's Claire's fault." The second officer approached Joyce. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to stand up. You're also under arrest for forgery and fraud." "I can't," Joyce sobbed, clinging to the chair. "My back, I'm disabled, you can't take me." "We can call an ambulance to transport you to the station if necessary," the officer said impassively. "But you are coming with us." I watched as they handcuffed my sister. I watched as my mother, miraculously finding the strength to walk when the threat of a stretcher appeared, was led out in cuffs, weeping about how ungrateful her children were. As they passed me, Joyce stopped. She looked me dead in the eye. "I gave you life," she spat, her face twisted into a mask of pure ugliness. "And this is how you repay me? Over money? You are dead to me, Claire, you are dead." I looked at the woman who had raised me. I looked at the person I had spent my entire adult life trying to please, trying to buy love from. "I know," I said quietly. "I've been dead to you for years, Mom. I was just the ghost who paid the bills." She was led out to the cruiser. I stood in the empty hallway with Grace. The silence in the house was absolute. "I'm sorry," Grace whispered, staring at the floor. "I'm so sorry, Claire." I looked at her. She was 25, but she looked 12. "Go pack a bag, Grace," I said, my voice tired. "You can't stay here. The police are going to seal the scene." "Where will I go?" she asked, tears spilling over. "I don't know," I said, "but you can't stay in my house anymore." The legal process was slow, grinding, and humiliatingly public. Because of the amount of money involved, over $50,000 in the loan fraud alone, not counting the credit card theft, the district attorney didn't go easy. They wanted to make an example. Joyce's medical condition miraculously improved when she realized that prison infirmaries weren't comfortable. Her lawyer, a public defender, because I refused to pay for one, managed to plead her down. Because of her age and coercion by her daughter and boyfriend, she avoided significant jail time. She was sentenced to 5 years of probation, restitution, and 500 hours of community service. The restitution was a joke. She had no money. The investor, Robert, had vanished into the wind the moment the cuffs went on Eva. Eva didn't fare as well. The video Grace provided, combined with her social media posts flaunting the stolen money, painted a picture of a remorseless manipulator. She was sentenced to 18 months in a minimum security facility for grand larceny and conspiracy. Her brand was destroyed. The comments on her Instagram shifted from "Yas Queen" to "thief" overnight. She tried to start a Free Eva campaign from prison. It had 0 followers. As for me, I cleaned out the house. It took me 3 weeks. I did it alone. I didn't hire movers. I needed to touch every object to process the memories and discard them. I found boxes of old photos in the attic, the real ones from when Dad was alive. I kept those. I found the secret folder laptop. I wiped the drive and donated it to a local school. I didn't want to see those pictures ever again. I sold the house. The market was hot, and despite the bad energy Joyce had left behind, it sold for way over asking price. I used the proceeds to pay off the fraudulent loan, which, legally, was still attached to the deed until I settled it, and recouped the money I had spent on the mortgage over the last decade. The day I handed the keys to the new owners, a young couple with a baby on the way, I felt a physical weight lift off my shoulders. It was as if I had been carrying a backpack full of stones for 10 years, and suddenly I was floating. I met Grace for coffee 2 months later. She looked different. She was wearing a uniform from a local bakery. No designer sunglasses, no perfect manicure. She looked tired, but she looked real. "How are you?" I asked, sipping my black coffee. "Okay," Grace said. "I'm renting a room in a shared house near the university. I re-enrolled in classes. Financial aid is covering most of it, and I'm working to pay the rest." "That's good," I said. "I went to see Mom," Grace said quietly. I didn't say anything. I hadn't spoken to Joyce since the arrest. "She's living in a state-assisted apartment," Grace continued. "She complains a lot. She still blames you. She says you ruined the family." "I saved myself," I corrected. "I know," Grace said. She reached across the table, her hand hovering near mine but not touching. "Claire, I really am sorry. For everything. For the trips. For the lying. It was easier to go along with them than to fight Eva. She was so loud and you were so quiet." "I know," I said. "It's easy to ignore the person who pays the bills until the check bounces." "I want to pay you back," Grace said earnestly. "I know I can't pay for everything, but for my share of the trips." I looked at her. I saw the regret in her eyes. I saw the potential for a decent human being finally emerging from the shadow of our mother's narcissism. "You don't have to pay me back in money," I said. "Just finish your degree, don't be like them. Be someone who earns their own way." Grace nodded, tears welling up. "I will." I stood up. "I have to get back to work." "Claire," Grace called out as I turned to leave. Can I call you sometime, just to talk?" I paused. I thought about the years of silence. I thought about the secret folder. But then I thought about the video Grace had handed to the police. She had made a choice that day. She had chosen the truth over the tribe. "Yeah," I said softly. "You can call, but Grace." "Yeah. If you ever ask me for money, I block the number."